Hello, everybody. Welcome to another exciting edition of the GDQ Hotfix. Glad to have you all here in this fabulous Sunday afternoon or evening, maybe morning, wherever you are. I am Darkman78, and we have a interesting broadcast for you. So we have an actual double feature today. We'll get into the second part of our broadcast later as we get to that. But for now, our first part is going to be, as always, our continuing coverage of Season 2, SpeedRunsLive Season 2. We are in week 7 out of 9 regular season weeks. And of course, as always, proud to be joined by my compatriot, Boney. Boney, welcome.
Hey, thanks.
So, Boney, we're definitely getting down towards the end of Season 2, the regular season at least. Do you want to kind of recap for maybe those who may be new? I feel like we've done this maybe once or twice, but you can never do it enough, right?
Yeah, we're getting there. So I guess just as a quick recap, if anyone is new, we are in week 7 of 9 of the main phase, I guess, of Season 2. Essentially, we're revealing a new game every single week, and everyone who wants to play that game and do the following races the next week has just that entire week to practice and get as good as they possibly can. Do research, grind the game out, however they need to improve. And they participate in the race. They get points based on how well they do, and so on and so on. We kind of repeat that process for 9 weeks, and they'll just accumulate points for their leaderboard. So we're getting close to the end. This is week 7 of 9. So yeah, I think we have a good sense of who's going to be doing well in the season at this point, who's going to be actually joining races. But we're getting close, and it's getting exciting. And I'm interested to see where people will be seated at the end of the 9th race and how the playoffs are going to pan out.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm ready for the playoffs. I mean, of course, we have a few weeks to go, but still got a lot on the line just because, during the playoffs, people are competing for those top 4 spots because we are awarding prizes to the top 4 players, of course. The grand prize being a Nintendo Switch, so that's pretty exciting. So, they're definitely not doing this just for fun, though. For most people, this is definitely fun. So I would hope at least they're having fun.
Hopefully both.
And of course, we have winners, not just the first place, but also our top 4, as well as the weekly winner of each regular season. So the fastest time is getting a prize for that as well. So a lot on the line, even if it's not the playoffs at this point, but still pretty fun. So let's talk a little bit about our game. It's going to be definitely an interesting game, I feel like. This is, of course, Princess Remedy. The category is 101% hard, which on the surface sounds like this is going to take forever, but it's really not as difficult as the name may seem, right, Boney?
Yeah, I'd say so. It's another accessible one and obviously obscure. I doubt the vast majority of people in chat even know what this game is, but it is a freeware game. It's kind of a top-down action game. And if it's cool with everyone, I kind of want to mix this up and maybe introduce our guest and do a gameplay demonstration first, just to give people an idea of how the game is going to work, and then we can kind of talk about the details and why we chose the goal and whatnot afterwards. People are probably wondering what the heck this game even is.
Yeah, so without further ado, we have our game-specific commentator for the week, Kirk Q. Welcome, Kirk Q.
What's up, guys?
Pretty good, pretty good. So I hear you know something about this game.
Yeah, I picked this up on Steam a while ago. It is literally free, $0 on Steam. Really fun game, and came out 2 or 3 years ago. And you can pick it up and beat it in 30 minutes probably, but there's a lot of nuance to the game, and I kind of picked it up and speedran it for a bit.
Sweet. All right, well, like Boney said, without further ado, let's kind of just get into the video right now, show off some of the gameplay elements of it. So, Boney, Kirk, you guys take it away.
All right, so I'll start out explaining some of the like higher up details. So there's 3 difficulties. There's a normal, a hard, and a master. And so normal is like kind of average, stuff doesn't deal that much damage. Hard enemies have harder patterns and they deal more damage. And then master, everything deals twice as much damage and the battles run 33% faster. So master is like actually quite difficult. Hard is just unfriendly, we'll say. And so the goal in the game is to get enough hearts to beat the game. You get hearts from opening treasure chests and winning fights. So this clip we're seeing right now is a fight. You run around, you shoot stuff, and then if you win, you get a heart. If you die, you can basically just restart the fight. So it's very friendly in that regard. Every time you mess up, you just restart the fight.
And I do actually want to address the lore of the game because it's so cool. You're basically saving people. Whenever you initiate a fight, you're just approaching this sick character on the map, and you notice when you beat all the enemies, which I guess are viruses or something, it says healing complete. So your goal is to not kill these people in the town, but actually save them from their infections. It's a very charming little plot.
Yeah, and like they're sad when you walk up to them, and they're happy when you walk away, right?
Well, that sounds sick.
Oh yeah, and they're in Hurtland. So there you go.
Perfect. So we have the category 101%. I guess, like, what does that entail? Like, what are you doing in 101% versus just a normal playthrough?
Oh yeah, so that's actually a really important detail here. So the extra 1% in 101% is there is a treasure chest in the game that says if you have opened anyone before him, he will not let you take his treasure. So he's kind of hidden, and you'll walk up to him and he'll just not let you open him. And he'll say, you've opened someone before me. So you have to get through the entire first half of the game and not open any treasure chests before you get to that treasure chest.
Oh,
And
man.
treasure chests have things like more health, more damage, multi-shot. So you have to go through the weapon with basically the little band-aid shot for the first half of the game until you get to that treasure chest. And it's quite difficult.
I think the route that people are using also involves only skipping one fight before you reach the jealous chest. So you're basically fighting almost every single thing before that point, and some of the fights are quite hard. There was some interesting discussion on which fight they should skip, and if they should skip any, if they should go back, maybe access a few of the fights that they did skip. So it was interesting to see the discussion. And I think the common sentiment was skipping one of two fights. So we might see some slight route deviations between our players today. But
Yeah, I was going to kind of bring up the routing aspect of it. So, based on the way this plays out, I guess it's very easy to just divert from what may be like the accepted fastest route in order to, be more safe.
A little bit. The limitation on the 101% category is basically that you have to, one, you can't get any treasure chests. Two, for the first half of the game. Two, you can only skip exactly one fight before the point in the game where you open the treasure chest. So I think we're going to see pretty similar routes and run patterns, but people may choose which one fight they're skipping slightly differently. And I think, like Boney said, there's two main fights you choose between.
Okay.
One other thing you can see on the screen in the bottom right now, the character has a flask. Throughout the game, you can get more flasks, but they're all in treasure chests. So for the beginning of the run, you will start every fight with one flask, which is like a throwing projectile that hits a 3x3 square.
it's a
And
grenade.
it's extremely powerful compared to your weapon.
So would you, obviously there's definitely some top-down shooter aspects to this game. Would you like say that this game kind of favors somebody who's like familiar with like shmups and those type of games, or do you think like the shooting aspect of this game is a little more accessible to most people?
Bonnie, you want to take that?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard to say. I feel like half of that skill set carries over, and the other half is almost like Zelda oriented, just by the way your movement works. You can't shoot in a direction that you're not moving in, so if you want to shoot right, you have to face right, and I feel like a lot of the movement aspects and mechanics and whatnot carry over from Zelda type of games and whatnot. Obviously, 2D Zelda type of games.
Yeah,
But
if you really
yeah.
get into this game, you see that like really slight movements are very powerful. Like if you just want to like, up left, up right, and move up like half a square to dodge a bullet, your primary goal is to always be facing the enemy and to dodge the bullets kind of with very slight movement.
Okay. All right. So I think that kind of I feel like we got a good explanation about what to expect out of this game. I don't know if there's really anything else in the gameplay video that might be interesting to note.
I mean, we could talk about all the different pickups because you have like regen and hearts and whatnot, and I hope Kirk remembers what all of them are because I do not.
Yeah, I mean, so
They're all useful.
the two powerful ones. One is in every main town, there's like a power up that makes your shots stronger, and then there are multis which make you shoot more bullets. So you'll start the game with one, then you'll get 2, 3, 4, 5. And there's flasks, which give you more flasks to throw. You start with 1, you can get up to 10. And then there's regen, which makes your health rejuvenate faster during the battle. So like if you stand around during the battle, your health will go up slowly. And regen's probably the weakest power up.
I think
All
that's
right.
a good overview, though.
Yeah.
There are definitely things to talk about in regarding how people approach the fights, how they abuse damage, how they fight enemies and whatnot. And we can kind of get into that during the actual race, but I think that's a good overview of all the essential mechanics and whatnot.
Absolutely. We of course, as always, have 4 featured racers on stream. Of course, that is not the only people competing. We have, of course, other people off screen competing, but we have our 4 featured racers. We believe most, if not, I think this might be ACM's first time as a featured racer, but I believe the other 3 have been on. Is that correct?
Yeah, that sounds right. And I think ACM has joined every single race except maybe Quake, so he's due for a showing. He's been putting in the work.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think our other 3 have been established to be very serious about the season as well, based on their previous appearances. So
Yep. So we have the number 1 and number 2 and number 3 racers, I believe, on the leaderboard in here in Ramses, St. Joe, and Pika Pals. You know, it sounds like a good time to bring up our leaderboard. See
yeah,
how
let's
we're
do
doing.
that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And yeah, I think I mean we've said this the last week or two, but we kind of have established just who's dominating the season and whatnot. But people are moving around, especially in like that even like 6th to 16th range. So I think we have a good idea of who's going to even qualify for top 16. But again, the seeding is like very important because you obviously don't want to play someone like Ramses first or even second round. So it's going to be very interesting to see how people do in that. I think Pika actually isn't in third technically when we account for like the deducted score. I see Kushis with a 314, so he might be in third right now. And I think next week, once we're in week 8 of 9th, then we can filter by the deducted column. That's definitely more important as we get later in the season. And just to kind of recap how that works, the deducted score is really what we're using for your final score in the season. That just removes your worst 2 scores in the season. So if you don't join a race, we'll just basically drop that score of 0 that you would get from missing that race. And obviously, it's not terribly important early in the season because, I mean, if you only join 3 races and we drop your 2 worst scores, for example, then yeah, that's not very relevant. Your total score is a bit more important. But we're getting to that point where the deducted column is getting very, very important and definitely more so than the total column.
Yep. Like with a lot of people in the the kind of 6th to 16th range, there's definitely like if they don't have zeros, they at least have games in which they may have not performed very well compared to their other results. So it's going to be interesting to see. Like there's definitely a huge incentive, even if they're in 6th place, where you may feel comfortable. It's not like you're not going to make the playoffs at this point, but you definitely want to kind of move up the seeding. So you have a better shot at advancing into later stages of the playoffs. So I'd be curious to see how it kind of shapes up over these next few weeks.
Yeah, it's getting juicy.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that's pretty much going to wrap it up for us for the pre-show. So kind of give you an idea of what to expect with the Princess Remedy. So we are, of course, the race is going to start at 2 p.m. Eastern, so that's in about 15 minutes. So we are going to go ahead and take a break. We'll play a commercial while we wait, and we will see you in approximately 15 minutes from now. All right, welcome back, everybody. Looks like we are just about ready to go, so we're going to start the race in just a second.
Ramses is hovering over normal. He's making me nervous.
It's all right, I believe.
Sam. Alright. Oh, he did it. We're fine.
All right, and we're underway.
I was just staring at that hard button, or the normal button. I was scared. It's fearing the worst. Alright. Okay. What's happening?
Alright, lots of running.
Lots of running. So how many fights are in this game again? 70 something?
There's 80 hearts. Some of those are from treasure chests, so let's say about 40 fights, maybe a little more.
Oh, that's right. Okay. So this game should start off pretty easy. As we mentioned, you need to basically do every fight and not use any chests until you get to the jealous chest about halfway in the game. So some of the fights are going to be pretty tough as we approach that part of the game, mainly because you're expected to have a lot more items and hearts and whatnot leading up to that. So, but we're still in the early stages, so I think most of these fights should go very quickly. A lot of the fight management you'll be seeing is mostly going to come down to just flask usage at this point. If you miss your flask, you're going to miss out on a lot of easy damage.
One thing we didn't mention during the pre-show is that you can actually run into the enemy and deal damage to them and to yourself. So, like, health management is really important. And, you know, running into the enemy at the end to kill it can be faster, but it can also kill you. So you gotta know.
I like the aspect for that damage abuse thing quite a bit. That's actually why we decided to do hard instead of master or normal. Normal, you can just abuse it probably too much, and master, you can hardly use it at all, or you'll just like die right away. So hard is kind of a good compromise.
So there's definitely a lot going on here. One thing I saw early on, Pika Pals took a kind of bad death. Probably only cost him 10 or 15 seconds, but he went to damage boost the last enemy of a fight and he died off of it.
Yeah, pretty much every death's gonna build up fast.
That's pretty much the entirety of the lead that ACM has right now, is that one death.
I do want to say most of the people who learn this game are kind of in that probably 19-minute range, a couple in the 18-minute range. Pika Pals actually has a 17:15, which is pretty convincingly the record right now. So he is definitely the favorite going into it, but just because of how this game works, how much you have to adapt in fights, and how punishing some deaths can be, obviously it's very volatile, and he is by far from a clear favorite to win. Just most likely, I would say. ACMLM is actually the only other person with a 17. He has a 17:57. He's definitely a strong contender as well.
So the beginning of the game's going really quickly here. We're gonna get to Spider Cave here in a little bit, and that's probably where the hard fights are gonna happen, and you're gonna see people get stuck a little bit longer. And you can see already these fights are slowing down.
We mentioned earlier that everyone's gonna skip pretty much one fight right before the jealous chest, and the Spider Cave, I believe, is where people were really discussing which one to skip. It was one of two different fights in this place. Two of them were quite hard for people, so they just kind of went by personal preference on what was the least likely to kill them before the jealous chest unlocked all of their stuff that they skipped on initially, and then they'll go back and do whatever the other fight was that they skipped.
So I noticed there's little gates that have numbers on them. So is that referencing like the amount of people they're healing? Is that like a gate, I guess?
Yeah, you need enough hearts to open the door, and you get the hearts by killing people and opening chests, and we're not opening chests right now. Or rather, healing people, like you say.
Yeah, and that's why they need to basically do like every fight, because normally you can skip a lot of fights and just open chests, but you can't do that when you're going for the jealous chest.
And 101%, I know it constitutes opening all the chests. Is there anything else to completing the game with 101%?
Just all the chests and all the fights, pretty much. And you don't need a couple chests that have keys in them. They don't count towards your percentage.
Alright, Ramses is getting a bit low. I feel like this is probably one of the harder fights at this point, just judging by how people are taking a lot of damage on this fight. St. Joe's obviously in a different one right now, but
Yeah,
everyone's kind of in the
that's
same
why
place.
Pals is gonna hurt him a lot.
Yeah, that's no good. Oh, he
We-
is. He's
Wow.
going full on power right there.
Well,
Check his
he's
money.
trying to flask the flames in the middle, and he missed his flask, so he just wanted to kill himself.
Oh,
I think.
okay.
These ghost enemies are actually probably the hardest thing to deal with in this category. So they move and shoot on very defined intervals, and they will always move closer to you. So you can kind of manipulate whether they move vertically or horizontally. And doing that is kind of the key to winning these fights. Pikapel's really pushing his health low again.
Yeah, he can't afford another death. That's going to be really bad. I think he'll be okay because there's only one left, but just needs to. All right, there we go. That's good.
All right, Ramses and ACM running into Spider Cave.
St. Joe is in last of our featured 4 right now. He just started the fight that Pika just finished. Yeah, Ramses and ACM are essentially tied right now. Same number of ghosts left on the same fight, so this is really close. These kind of fights are part of the reason why I really like this game, because technically they're random, because you don't really know how the enemies are going to move at any point, and they kind of have a mind of their own in certain ways, but it's a lot of just adaptation, and really you can always deal with basically everything they throw at you, so you're not going to get just completely screwed by bad luck. You can kind of always work with it.
All right.
It may cost you some more time if you have to run away a bit more, but yeah, you can always work with it. You can always work with it.
Ramses and ACM are in what I consider the hardest fight in the game for this category. So Ramses has those ghosts pinned on top, which is really helpful, and now it looks like he's gonna try and lure one out at a time while dodging the bullets. Ramses is in good shape. ACM's in pretty good shape too for this fight. And
Yeah, I think
Pikapel's is just getting into the fight.
They're gonna get through it on the first try. Oh, Ramses just took a... Not Ramses, excuse me. ACM just took a bunch of damage, but I think he'll be okay. Pika takes another death, too. He's falling behind a bit. A little
I think
surprised.
the pressure of the race is getting to him both.
Yeah, I guess so. Like I said, he was technically the favorite just because his PB was quite a bit ahead of everyone else. But yeah, there was no guarantee who was going to win, of course. But I'm surprised to see him fall behind this early.
Yeah, I mean this game it's a lot of pacing, right? When you're trying to set the record for the game, you're playing crazy. You're pushing your health to the last pixel. When you're in the race, you don't want to do that so much.
What do you think the hardest enemy is to deal with in the game? Do you think it's the ghost or?
I think the ghost is the one that comes up the most. Just because all the fights in Spider Cave have lots of ghosts. They kind of just creep up on you. They deal a lot of damage. They take a lot of shots to kill. Alright, so Ramses grabs the chest, and after you grab that chest, it opens all of the previous chests that you have passed by. So Ramses has lots of power now.
Yeah.
He's gonna tank through the rest of the game.
Yeah, fights are gonna look way different now. You just see a completely different weapon. You see 3 of them. Pretty much everything's gonna die pretty easily now, at least for a while. Some of the later fights in the game will still be tricky, mainly because things hit you hard and there are just a ton of enemies. But yeah, it's definitely gonna be a nice little mental break for everyone who just got the jealous chest, just because you kill everything so fast now. I also think flask management is a bit less important now, but it kind of depends on the enemies.
Yeah, I mean, so they have 5 flasks right now, and in most fights, if you're playing really well, you will finish the fight before you can throw all 5.
Yeah, very true. Some of the ones with like walls and whatnot, flasks are a bit more important on, I would say. Mainly because it just takes some more time to reach the enemies. The one Ramses just did is kind of an example of that. If you can just lob the flask over the wall, then it definitely saves you some time. Ramses is ahead by a fight or two right now, I think. And when do you think the game starts getting a bit tougher, would you say?
Towards the end, there's some stronger enemies that take a lot of hits. There's like the red hands. These suns deal a lot of damage if you don't deal with them, but they die to one hit of a flask, I think.
No, did ACM just catch up already?
They
I don't
may
think
have
Ramses died, but
split their roots slightly. I'd have to watch a little closer here.
yeah, might be right.
So I think ACM already went to the asteroid. I did not see if Ramses went there or not.
Okay, so it probably was a route change then. I feel like Ramses was a bit ahead, and now it seems that he's behind, so it probably was a routing change.
We'll see in about 1 minute when they finish this area. They'll both sync up at one spot.
Right. This fight Ramses is doing right now, I think it's another good example of how flasks really just aren't terribly important at this point. Especially just the really open stages. Like I said, you can just kill everything. Or like Kirk said, rather, you can just kill everything so fast. As long as there's nothing like obstructing your fire path. And they don't really serve too much of a purpose. But they'll be a bit more useful later. You're going to see a lot more enemies in the later stages. And some of them, I think they do more damage and they kill you really fast, but...
Okay, ACM went in the warp room at about 11:33. I think Ramses is right behind him, about 10 seconds behind him.
Okay, close race.
So ACM went back in the spider cave, finished off the last spider that he didn't kill earlier. Now that he has the power-ups, Ramses does the same thing.
I think Joe and Pika are pretty close as well. I'll try to keep an eye on them to see how far behind they are.
Yeah, Joe's upstairs. If he finished the downstairs, he might be ahead of Pika Pals right now. He did not, so they're probably almost tied.
Yeah, Joe's definitely ahead of Pika. And ACM and Ramses are still like in the same place. I think Ramses might have pulled ahead slightly. Ramses seems to be playing a bit more aggressively too.
I think they are literally tied right now.
Oh my goodness.
Oh
this
yeah,
thing-
you're right.
The funny thing is, so you can go through this room clockwise or counterclockwise, and they goes opposite.
Does the jealous chest actually give you anything unique to the jealous chest, or it's just there?
He has a power in him, so at the end of the game, you have a weapon that's more powerful. So they're +1 power over where you'd normally be right now.
Okay.
And power shows up in your shot graphic, I guess. You'll notice they're shooting orbs right now. St. Joe's shooting sparkles. Here's the red hand enemies I was talking about. They deal a lot of damage and they take a lot of hits.
Fortunately, they move slow, so you can at least deal with them. But I know those things can be really tough in a couple later fights when they just shove a million enemies at you. I forget how many red hands are in some of those fights, but yeah, if there are a bunch of them, they can be kind of annoying to deal with and very easily kill you if you're not being careful. I think the one ACM is on right now and Ramses just finished is actually one of the harder ones sometimes, but...
Yeah, it looks like ACM had some really bad patterns with those green guys running behind the pillars.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I see Ramses is definitely being the favorite to win at this point. He's just playing more aggressively, it seems like. He's kind of shoving his body into enemies, taking more damage, and it's definitely draining his health bar more than ACM is, but obviously that makes him more prone to dying if he's being more aggressive, so let's see what happens.
Yeah, I want to say he's using more consistent strategies too. Like his flask placement is good, his movement around the battle is a little more consistent than what some of the other players are doing.
I think Royal Valley is where Ramses just entered, and he is... I don't know if that's the final area or the second to last, but I know they're getting pretty close.
So one thing you have to do to 100% is you have to get this chocolate box in the Royal Valley, and then you have to go back to the nothing dimension and get this power in this one fight.
Okay,
So-
that sounds familiar.
So he's gotten to the final boss, he just has to backtrack and kill this fight to get 100%. And now he's got the, oh shoot, what's it called? The frog. Apathetic frog, that's what it's called.
I'm excited to talk about how the end of the game works, but we'll kind of save it for when it's relevant.
So yeah, we're getting up on the end here. I think Ramses has 2 more fights and then the final boss. St. Joe takes a death. Pika Pals is backtracking towards the chocolate box fight. So Ramses is actually ahead by, I would say, almost a minute right now. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe more like 40 seconds.
He extended his lead like crazy. That stage he just finished is actually very difficult, at least if you're new. There are just so many enemies in the right, and yeah, here we go. ACM's gonna do it in the same fight.
So okay, final boss fight. This is the Final Fantasy VI ending. So there's 4 phases to this fight. They all have 3 heads except the last one, and you can kind of see when they're flashing. So he's shooting the bottom one and the middle one right now, and then he's gonna rotate up towards the top one.
So you say in the line of Final Fantasy VI, if he dies, he has to start all over again, or?
Yeah, actually. And on the hardest difficulty, this is actually very difficult.
Woo.
Woo, yep.
All right, he's
I hope
coming up
everyone types that.
on the final boss, Mr. Potato Head, with his words of wisdom. So Ramses saves all of his flasks for the last fight.
This fight is really tricky casually, but I feel like it's probably one of the easier parts of the run, just because you're kind of used to the pattern. It always does the same stuff.
All right,
But
Ramses is done. 1754 or so.
Nice. That's probably a PB for him. Knowing him, he seems to do that every week.
ACMLM,
Very
10
close.
seconds from done. Pika
Dude.
Pals fighting the potato.
McHill just took second place off stream actually, 18:05, only 10 seconds back. And ACM got an 18:10. So yeah, very close race. Ramses pulled ahead. He was just more aggressive towards the end, I think.
I think in the later towns, he just really had better plans for the fights.
So that third finish is going to do a lot for ACM, because I know he was kind of a little bit in the back of the pack heading into the standings, but this one for sure is going to help him out.
Yeah, he's been consistently like top half of the field, which is great. It really builds up for him and it puts him in a good position in the season. But he's been due for a really strong finish, and there you go, 3rd place out of like 25 people-ish. That's pretty good.
It's pretty good.
So it happened very fast because everyone was just mashing through the text, but the end of this game is amazing. And after the final boss, you get to go marry someone. And you can basically marry anyone who you want. Any of the people you saved and healed, you just walk up to them and you say, "Hey, marry me," more or less. And that's the end of the game.
And they all have like flavor text when you marry them. So you'll get like one line of dialogue, so you can actually like restart the game. Right? See, Pika Pal's just married the apathetic frog.
Nice. Yeah, that's the best one.
Not that he cared.
Yeah, you gotta marry the frog. It's just the best option.
And there's actually a secret area. You can go back to the beginning of the game and like marry the queen that talked to you at the beginning. St. Joe in peril. Dodging bullets. Alright. He made it through. Like, the master difficulty of this game is so insane. Like, I think you can get hit by like 2 or 3 of those big bullets and you're just dead. And the boss has a lot more health or something, or you deal less damage.
I think we should talk about the sequel too. If you want to cover that, Kirk.
Oh yeah,
It's a
so
pretty good game.
this game is free, and it's a very good free Steam game. Probably one of the best on Steam. They made a sequel called Princess Remedy in a world of in a heap of trouble. This one is Princess Remedy in a world of hurt. So Heap of Trouble, very similar game, pretty much the same engine. You get all sorts of like power-ups. I don't really know how to sell them, man. I'm not a salesman, but it's a very fun game.
Nice sales.
If you like this game, pick up that game. Seriously.
Yeah, I think the sequel's like $4, maybe 3. I mean, it's more or less the same stuff. They did some slight gameplay changes, but it's kind of the same thing. You're just healing people, you're saving people in fights. Very similar structure. So I recommend downloading the free game, playing through it. It really won't take long, and it's really fun, even if you're just doing like the NA% category. And yeah, if you like it, pick up the sequel. Support the dev because he's awesome. He makes really good games, at least based on these two.
I mean,
And,
who gives away a free game like this, man? It's too
yeah,
good.
it's really high quality for being free. And yeah, make sure you marry everyone as well. Save right before you beat the final boss and check out all the dialogue. Some of it's really funny. Yeah, we're going to show off some of the other racers as well. People who didn't play the game quite as much, but I think we'll get kind of a better idea for how hard some of the fights get. I want to see people get walled by that last fight with
Oh
like
no,
30
someone's in
enemies on the
Spider
right.
Cave still, dude.
Uh-oh. Yeah, Spider Cave's hard.
If you want a challenge, do 101% master in this game, because these Spider Cave fights will give you an appreciation for how difficult a very simple 2D shooter can be.
I think if I'm not mistaken, I believe some girls said on in the race channel that they were thinking of doing master just because. So I wonder if
Yeah.
that's the case.
I don't think that's what she's doing right now.
Okay.
Just because the fights move faster in master.
Okay.
I actually didn't know that. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah, it's scary stuff, man.
So you take more damage, you probably deal less damage,
Actually,
and they move
now
faster.
you got me questioning.
Yeah, they do seem to be moving faster. Okay. So we kind of have a taste for what Master looks like then.
I don't know. I
It's
don't know.
true.
I can't make a judgment call here.
Yeah.
We'll put hamster. This is a cross. How about that?
Oh, there you go. And yeah, just to explain why she might be doing that, she actually joined the race last night, so joining today's race isn't going to get her anything in terms of points for the season. She just wants to race the game again because it's fun. So yeah, if she wants to race the harder difficulty, I guess that's cool. Just kind of a fun thing to do. There was another goal of this that was raced. Here we go. This is like, so there's 101 master, which I guess is the quote unquote official hardest difficulty in the game. There was also a fun race a couple years ago of 78 hearts, 1 power, and multi, which basically means you need to 100% the game, but you're not allowed to get any of the power upgrades. So you're just always weak. So basically, imagine what they were doing for the Jealous Chest, except they're kind of doing that for the entire game, even in the last fights. I don't know
Except
why they did that race, but yeah, it
it,
sounds really
the,
hard.
the problem is there's 2 fights that are near impossible under those limitations.
Yeah.
Like we determined that like you could beat one of them, it would just require you to get extremely lucky, and the second one was just like, I am not going to try this.
They did do that on normal, to be fair. It wasn't on master. I fear what master would be like, but yeah, even doing it on normal, it took the racers like 3 or 4 hours. So that's saying a lot. I want to see someone do it on master now. That sounds fun.
It sounds like you're gonna do it, Bunny.
Right after you do it.
Whoa, hold on. That's not how it works.
Good.
All right.
So I'm how I'm very confused. Why are apathetic frogs coming out of VLAC SRs?
That's the gun, man. That's the final weapon.
I didn't know this, and I wish I did because this is
When,
beautiful.
when you get the chocolate box, you get 6 power out of 5, and you shoot apathetic frogs.
All right, I like it. Do you think apathetic frog is the best character to marry?
Best to marry. I don't know. Definitely the best character.
Mhm. I guess that's what my question was, but yeah, that's another interesting question. Who is the ideal candidate for marriage?
I think it's personal preference.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, I wish we saw more unique marriages. So maybe we could pull the chat and see who their ideal candidate is. But I guess everyone's just gonna have to be cool with marrying the apathetic frog. I hope no one has an issue with that. We'll just assume that's what everyone would want. All right, so VLAC is entering the final boss. It might finish in the top 10. Let's see how many people have finished. Okay, 10 actually have finished, so about half of the racers are done now. And hopefully, meanwhile, Jal will reach the Jealous Chest soon. He's very close. He got out of the spider cave, so that's good.
Gel got the chest already.
Oh, did he? Okay.
Yeah. He's shooting a real
Oh, yeah,
weapon.
yeah, yeah. I see multiple things. Okay.
I think you are right. I feel like some girl is playing on Master.
Yeah.
I I would hate to be wrong, but I think that's correct.
Yeah, it seems to be.
Wait, did she really? She took the other spider fight? That's crazy. That's crazy.
Challenge mode.
Never seen it in my life.
It all happens very quickly, but you may notice some girl just went through a wall, and obviously that's very uninteresting in terms of a speedrun perspective. But I just want to mention that I kind of like that component of the casual game because the game is like so easy to find everything in, but it's really interesting like trying to find all the hidden walls and whatnot. They all have little visual cues, and I just think it adds some charm to the first playthrough that everyone will have. Just trying to find everything. They don't take a long time to get, but it's enjoyable to just look for everything. There's
Yeah,
a
I
ton of
was
stuff in
playing
this game.
this. I was playing this a little bit yesterday to refresh, and one of the characters in the first town says something to the effect of like, "If you look in this house, you'll see a hidden room. It's pretty obvious, but I thought I'd just tell you,"
Yeah.
or something like that.
Yeah, it's very self-aware. I missed the apathetic frog projectile already. I want to see more.
You only get it for, I think they're using it for 3 fights in this route. So let's see where we're at on our runners. So some girl, well, I saw Jal just went into the fortress. Vlak is still in, or wait, he's marrying people, right?
Yeah, Vlaka finished, so
Yeah,
we
Vlak
just switched
finished.
up to Lamo.
Oh, it's okay. We got the legendary Lamel.
The legendary
Legend.
Lamo, who is blind in this game. So what better person to feature than our blind runner?
I mean, he made it past the hard part, and he should finish.
So I guess he must have known about the jealous chest. I guess he was told ahead of time.
Yeah. Yeah, I made sure everyone going in blind at least knew about that, because the game's kind of nice, because once you beat the game, you can just load up your file and go back and find everything again. So it's good for like 100% blind playthrough. It's very friendly for that, but you can't mess the jealous chest up. You got to start the game over if you open a chest. So they didn't need to know about that. That was the one thing we told them.
You mean you wouldn't have taken pleasure in seeing him reset over and over again?
I mean, sure, but only if you forgot.
Okay.
Okay, wait. Are Jal and some girl both playing on Master right now? Is that what I'm seeing?
Oh no.
Is this the real race?
Did Jal enter last night?
Let's see what we got.
I think he did, but maybe he did.
He did not.
No, okay. Well, I don't know what to say about that. I hope he's not playing Master.
Okay, so hold on. What's the deal
Lamel,
with what's wrong, Kurt?
Lamel's at the chocolate box door, and he doesn't have the chocolate box. I don't think he knows, but he'll figure it out later.
Sorry, I believe.
Poor Lamel.
It's okay. This is his time to shine. He's gonna figure it out, and everything's gonna be fine.
This is the real journey of the stream here.
All right, so some girls at that really hard fight I mentioned that no one died on.
Yeah,
This is
look at
supposed to
all
be the
these
game.
This
attacks.
is crazy.
yeah.
This is definitely Master, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, do keep in mind this is harder, but it's very hard
She's gonna
this
die.
fight if you don't kill
No way.
everything
Okay.
fast.
This is crazy.
You need to distribute your flasks very well and kill as many things as you possibly can, like right away. And that's kind of what everyone in the race did. So we didn't see it go wrong. So I guess that's good for them. But yeah, this is what it looks like if you don't just optimize all your flasks really well. 'Cause it gets out of hand super fast, and it's just hard to deal with everything. I'm glad we're seeing this because people need to appreciate the difficulty of this fight.
Yeah, I think one of the strategies in this fight is you just don't want to hit your barrier down. Like those pink orbs are actually saving you from the enemies. So you want to put your flasks in places that don't break those down.
Right. Yeah, I guess the ones in the back aren't as much of an issue, but that first row you kind of need for a while.
All right, I think this is a good attempt. I'm feeling good about this one.
I don't know, man.
Well, I'm not
It
anymore.
was decent.
You're always two
hands-
shots from dead.
I'm really invested in this now. I want to see this happen. Oh, I feel like this is like where the true bullet hell experience is needed for this.
Yeah, yeah, I can see that. And this this fight's a good example of why I kind of like the Zelda style of controls, where you only shoot the direction you're facing in. It makes it a lot harder. I feel like this is kind of low level bullet hell in terms of just how the projectiles move. You can kind of bait them in one direction, and they're not terribly hard to dodge because they're slow. But the issue with that is because you need to face the direction you're shooting in, you can't really kill the enemies as fast as you need to because you're just spending so much time just constantly walking away from the projectiles. So you need to like very quickly flick right, shoot like one layer of projectiles, I guess, and then immediately start dodging things again.
Yeah, one of the things you're trying to do in this fight, so we'll call them like the bullets that look a little more like X's or throwing stars maybe. Those home in on you, and I believe they also deal more damage. So you really don't want to get hit by those. That was a okay attempt. I wonder, what does she need to be killing? I mean, those skulls, the shots from the skulls are really causing problems.
Just gets bodied out of nowhere.
Oh, Libra's on the final boss now. I just noticed that.
Okay, that's important.
I love that
Okay.
snake. I just have to acknowledge him.
When he dies, his face changes.
Yeah. Great faces.
You're shooting the apathetic frog with the apathetic frog. It's not canon.
Is that a potato, by the way?
I think it is.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it's a potato.
Alright. Yeah, it seems logical.
So
see, now she's calling it a hype snake. That's reasonable.
it's fair.
Oh, that actually is what it's called.
Oh,
I think,
I mean, he says woo.
Yeah.
I think he might be in the second game. I can't
Yeah.
recall.
I was thinking the same thing, because I definitely remember the name Hype Snake, so that's probably what it was. I forgot that it was in the first game. That's interesting. There's a connection. This is canon.
Yeah, the lore. Gel is fighting the chocolate box battle. It's the only fight in the game with these hearts. We'll see if Lamel can make it there later. Gel in the secret. He's missing a heart. I think it's actually the last boss. I think he's ready to go.
Alright, so some girl made it out of that fight, I guess, while we were watching Libra, so that's good. Rest shouldn't be too bad.
Gel has everything with the last boss.
surprised that
So you're gonna see a different story here with
Yeah.
this last boss right now.
Yeah, I don't know if there are more projectiles, but they're definitely faster. And
There's definitely more.
are there? Okay.
You do get your health back in between phases. One of the big things here is you don't want to get hit by the large bullets. They really hurt. And then if you can focus down one or two of the three pieces, they stop shooting. And then you don't have as much to dodge.
I just had to say it.
Woo.
Ooh.
woo.
Alright, let's see if Jal can pull this off.
Gel has most of his flasks, so that's a good sign. When we saw Vlak fight this boss a few minutes ago, I mean, he just tanked the damage and just threw flasks and basically killed it not long after that. I assume that still works on Master, but
Not as well. You have to dodge, definitely.
yeah.
It's a little easier with the frog weapon because you deal a lot more damage per second.
Okay.
But, okay, he gets
Yep,
it.
there you go. Alright, good. I had faith Gel was gonna go marry someone else. Let's see if it's the frog. I want to mix it up. I wanna
Is
see
he marrying
something.
the seal of quantity? He's doing it.
Oh, let's go. Alright. More lore. Look at that seal. So happy.
Aww.
I think that was the right choice.
You're getting a commentary from Lemmel about what the status of his hearts are.
Uh-oh.
He's a few short at the moment.
Uh-oh. It's okay. He got the Joel's chest. He'll be fine. That's the important thing.
This is the real journey. 76, 5, and 5. Oh, he doesn't have the chocolate. Okay. He gets the chocolate box. Will he go back? Does he know? I wonder if he went in the warp zone at all, because there's a heart in the warp zone that you can pretty easily miss.
Could be.
Oh, he finds it. Looks like we're getting the full Lamel experience on stream right now. Lamel, definitely not known for having good internet.
I don't know if we deserve that.
You can't take him off the stream, though.
Well, he's gone.
No, you can't do this.
It's okay. Lamel had his chance.
All right. Well, I believe that's pretty much going to wrap it up for this week's race. It was pretty exciting. I'd like to think. Yeah, I had a lot of fun with that game. I think the game was pretty neat. It was a pretty good choice. So thank you very much for showing that off, Boney.
Yeah, fun game.
And thank you very much, Kirk, for your expert commentary, or master commentary, as they may say.
You're welcome. Thanks for having me on.
You didn't even know how to respond. That's cool. So, of course, we'll be updating the standings and showing you next week how we're doing. However, since it is the end of a Season 2 broadcast, that means we need to show off next week's game. So, I believe we have a video. So, what do we got?
Yeah, we're almost at the end. So I think we're due for a little Sega, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. All right. Well, here's some Sega. We got the man, Mr. Sparkster, on Rocket Knight Adventures. Very, very fast game and hard game. This is a game where pretty much every death can be pretty punishing, I would say. It's going to be quite different from the last few games we've seen. You go very fast in the stages, and there are also a lot of death zones and whatnot that you can fall in, and it's going to be pretty brutal to die there. This is also a very boss-heavy game, so for better or worse, again, you need to fight well, and it's very easy to die. It's pretty much easy to die in this entire game, so it's going to be a bit different from Remedy and even Wipeout and whatnot. Kind of the opposite in that sense. Those games, if you mess up, it's not a big deal, but this game's kind of going to test people's patience and whatnot, just making sure they don't die, trying to be careful, but trying to go fast at the same time. And
Yeah.
Sega.
Sega. Yeah,
Sega.
we had to have a Sega representation.
Yep.
There's no way we couldn't do it. And I thought Rocket Knight Adventures was like the perfect game for that. It's definitely that combination of not a ton of people are really experienced with this, but at the same time it has a community, so there's kind of like knowledge of it, and I'll just be curious to see how people are able to adapt to this game. I'm really looking forward to this one. This is going to be a really good show off. I don't know. What are your predictions, Boney? You think everybody's just going to be beefing it throughout the race, or is it going to be strong? Yeah. I like
Who will
that.
beef it the least? That's the question.
I feel like the last two races we've had more like straightforward races. Obviously there's time losses with deaths and whatnot, but relatively simple, not like a huge time separating people. I think this game might be like the difference maker. We'll see what happens.
Yeah, it's gonna be an intense.
Absolutely. But yeah, so that is going to wrap it up for this week's edition of SpeedRunsLive Season 2. So that was Week 7 race featuring Princess Remedy. Normally this would be the time where we sign off. However, we do have another hotfix that we're doing right after this one. We're just doing it back to back. So at this point, I'd like to thank Boney Kirk you again for coming on, and we're going to go ahead and transition. So we're going to take a 5-minute break while we get set up for our second part of the hotfix, which is going to be a Legend of Mana and E% race. This is kind of a kick off RPG Limit Break, preview it, and let everybody know what's up. So we'll be back in just a few minutes. Okay, well, I think we're good. All right, we're peacing
Probably.
out.
All right.
Anna's muted.
Thanks, guys.
See ya. Yeah.
See ya.
Are you doing that?